Another tennis player just got caught with clostebol in their system. Yes, that clostebol.
Breaking news concerning the men's number one. Jannik Sinner tested positive twice for a banned anabolic steroid at Indian Wells in March.
The same stuff that turned Jannik Sinner's year into a legal drama series. This time, it's an 18-year-old American you've probably never heard of. And honestly, the timing couldn't be more ironic. The tennis world's favorite contamination excuse is back, and we need to talk about it. Before we get into this mess, quick question. Do you think these positive tests are genuine contamination cases or just convenient excuses? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this discussion is about to get interesting. So here's what happened. Jessica Eudovic, an 18-year-old American tennis player, just got provisionally suspended by the ITA after testing positive for clostebol. If that name sounds familiar, congratulations, you've been paying attention to the Jannik Sinner saga. If it doesn't, well, buckle up because we're about to connect some very entertaining dots. Udovich provided a urine sample after competing at an ITF World Tennis Tour W15 event in Santa Tecla, El Salvador, back on October 1st. For those keeping track at home, that's the tennis equivalent of playing in your local community league. We're talking about a tournament where the prize money barely covers your travel expenses. Her career high ranking? 1,104 in the ITF singles rankings. Not 104, not 14. 1,104. Both her A and B samples came back positive for a metabolite of clostebol, which is a prohibited anabolic steroid. She didn't have authorization to use it, obviously, and now she's facing a provisional suspension that kicked in on November 21st after her appeal got dismissed faster than a ball boy running for a towel.
Jannik Sinner this summer, Iga Swiatek this summer, and it's a weird place in tennis because you feel like you're defending. You're either, punish them here or forgiveness here, and it seems like there's no middle ground, no nuance. The thresholds, and my argument is like a threshold argument where Iga Swiatek recently, number one player in the world last couple of years, will finish 2 this year, 5 majors by the age of 23, great player. Tested positive for contaminated supplement. It's been proven what she said was true, but it was in melatonin, which she took when going from Paris to Cincinnati. Took one at 2 o'clock, got a knock on her door. We get out of competition testing, knock on her door at 7 a.m. Anyways, what she had, basically what they said was in it, there was other stuff in it, right? Like anyone who's like gluten person can, if it's mixed together, you can have trace elements of gluten if it's been mixed in the same factory.
Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Clostebol. This substance has become tennis's most awkward recurring character. It's like that one friend who keeps showing up uninvited to parties and causing drama. Earlier this year, we watched the entire tennis world lose its collective mind when Jannik Sinner, the actual number one player in the world, tested positive for this exact same substance.
The Sinner doping scandal has been in the headlines for months, and although much has been said about it, the mainstream media has once again steered the debate away from the key issues. Instead of transparent investigation, we've seen a carefully managed narrative that presents Sinner as an unfortunate victim of circumstance, rather than a player who tested positive for a banned anabolic steroid. From the very beginning, Sinner supporters, both in the mainstream and on social media, have passionately defended him.
The irony here is almost too perfect. Sinner's case became this massive controversy, with everyone from players to commentators weighing in with their hot takes. Some defended him, others called for stricter punishments, and the whole situation turned into a months-long saga that had more plot twists than a telenovela. And now, while that dust is barely settled, here comes another clostebol case, except this time it's a player ranked outside the top 1,000. Let's be real about something. The contrast between these two cases is going to be fascinating to watch. When Sinner tested positive, the tennis world practically exploded. Press conferences, emergency statements, expert panels discussing every microscopic detail. The man had lawyers, scientists, and probably a crisis management team working overtime. His explanation? Contamination through a massage from his physiotherapist who had used an over-the-counter spray containing clostebol. That explanation was eventually accepted, though not without significant controversy and debate. Sinner avoided a lengthy ban, but the whole ordeal cost him prize money, ranking points, and probably a few years off his life from stress. The court of public opinion remains divided on whether he got preferential treatment or whether the system actually worked as intended. Now we have Udovich, an 18-year-old playing in El Salvador at a W15 event. These tournaments are where players are literally grinding it out, hoping to earn enough ranking points to maybe, possibly, one day, qualify for bigger events. The prize money at these tournaments, the winner takes home about $1,500. Before taxes, before travel expenses, before coaching fees. You get the picture. Here's where it gets interesting from a systemic perspective. The ITA doesn't care whether you're ranked number 1 or number 1,104. The rules are the rules, and a positive test is a positive test. In theory, this is exactly how it should work. Anti-doping regulations shouldn't have a VIP section where top players get different treatment than lower-ranked players. Everyone gets tested, everyone gets held to the same standard. But in practice, the resources available to these two players couldn't be more different. Sinner had access to top-tier legal representation, sports scientists, and contamination experts who could trace the substance back to a specific spray bottle. He could afford to mount a comprehensive defense that examined every possible angle of contamination. Udovich is playing W15 tournaments. Her entire year's prize money probably wouldn't cover Sinner's legal fees for a week. If her case involves contamination, does she have the resources to prove it? Can she hire experts to investigate every supplement, every surface she touched, every person she came into contact with? The provisional suspension already started on November 21st, which means she's already missing tournaments and losing ranking points while this gets sorted out. The timing of her positive test is also worth noting. October 1st. That's right in the middle of when the Sinner case was still making headlines and dominating tennis discussions. You'd think that with all that attention on Clostebol, players at every level would be extra paranoid about anything they put in or on their bodies. Yet here we are. This raises some uncomfortable questions about education and resources in lower-level professional tennis. Are players at the ITF level getting adequate information about banned substances? Do they have access to the same level of support and guidance that top players receive? Or are they expected to navigate these complicated anti-doping rules on their own while scraping together enough money to pay for hotels and flights? The Clostebol situation specifically highlights how tricky contamination can be. This isn't some exotic substance that only shows up in shady underground labs. Clostebol appears in over-the-counter products, particularly in Italy, where Sinner's contamination allegedly occurred. It's in wound-healing sprays, skin treatments, and various topical medications. Someone can unknowingly come into contact with it through completely innocent means. But here's the thing that makes this whole situation frustrating. Innocent contamination is absolutely possible, maybe even likely in many cases. Yet the burden of proof falls entirely on the athlete. You test positive, you're guilty until you can prove otherwise. And proving contamination requires resources, time, and expertise that not every player has access to. The ITIA's provisional suspension of Udovich came into effect after her appeal was dismissed. That's a significant detail. She appealed, and they said no. This means she's sitting out tournaments during what should be crucial developmental years for an 18-year-old player. Every week she's suspended is a week she's not earning ranking points, not gaining experience, not making prize money. For a player at her level, that could be devastating to her career trajectory. Meanwhile, the tennis world is probably going to give this case a fraction of the attention Sinner's received. There won't be breathless press coverage or emergency podcasts dissecting every detail. She's not sponsored by major brands who need to issue statements. She doesn't have millions of fans demanding answers. She's just another lower-ranked player who tested positive and is now fighting an uphill battle to clear her name. This disparity in attention isn't necessarily wrong. It's just reality. Media coverage follows star power and public interest. But it does create an awkward situation where the conversation about anti-doping in tennis remains focused almost entirely on high-profile cases, while the vast majority of positive tests happen at levels where players have far fewer resources to defend themselves. The Sinner case at least sparked important conversations about contamination, about how these substances can enter an athlete's system without their knowledge, and about whether the current system adequately accounts for these scenarios. His case created precedent and forced the tennis world to grapple with these complex issues. Udovic's case will probably be resolved quietly, with minimal fanfare, and whatever happens to her won't generate the same level of scrutiny or debate. There's also the question of what this means for Clostebol moving forward. 2 positive tests for the same substance within the same year, even if they're at completely different levels of the sport, suggests that contamination with this particular substance might be more common than previously thought. Or it could suggest that players are using it and hoping they can explain it away as contamination. Either scenario is problematic and deserves serious investigation. The anti-doping system in tennis, like in most sports, operates on strict liability. This means athletes are responsible for everything that enters their body, regardless of intent or knowledge. On one hand, this makes sense. You can't have a system where everyone claims ignorance and gets away with doping. On the other hand, it creates situations where genuine contamination cases can ruin careers and reputations. Finding the right balance is incredibly difficult. Make the rules too lenient, and dopers exploit the system. Make them too strict, and innocent athletes get caught in the crossfire. The current system tries to account for contamination by reducing or eliminating suspensions when athletes can prove unintentional exposure, but proving that requires resources many players simply don't have. For Eudovic, the next few months will determine whether she has a professional tennis career to return to. Even if she's ultimately cleared, the suspension itself damages her ranking and momentum. If she can't prove contamination and receives a lengthy ban, her career is effectively over before it really started. She's 18 years old, ranked outside the top 1,000, and now fighting a doping charge. That's not exactly the foundation for a successful professional career. The ITIA will eventually establish a final sanction, but until then, she's stuck in limbo. Can't compete, can't earn ranking points, can't make money from prize money. For a lower-ranked player operating on extremely tight margins, this suspension might be financially unsustainable even if she's eventually cleared. This case also serves as a reminder that the anti-doping system casts a wide net. Every player at every level is subject to testing and sanctions. There's no ranking threshold below which you're exempt from the rules. If you're competing in professional tennis, even at W15 events in Central America, you're part of the testing pool and subject to all the same regulations as the top players. Whether this is Udovic's last act in professional tennis or just an unfortunate chapter in what could still be a long career remains to be seen. What's clear is that Clostebol has become tennis's most controversial substance, and this case won't be the last time we hear about it. The conversation about contamination, resources, and fairness in anti-doping enforcement continues, and cases like this one highlight just how complicated these issues really are. So, another player, another positive test, same substance. The difference? One player had the resources to fight back, the other is just trying to survive. The system treats everyone equally on paper, but reality tells a different story. If this situation bothers you as much as it bothers me, smash that like button and subscribe for more tennis coverage that doesn't sugarcoat the uncomfortable truths.